Hi, this is Walter from Zimstones by Walter, and I'm coming to you today on behalf of the design team for the Gingerbread Prints. And today I'm going to be walking you through how I have made a folio with the vintage fashion kits from the Gingerbread Prints. There's 3 kits in total. One is the fashion journal kit, one is the fashion folio kit, and one is the vintage fashion add-on kit. I'm going to be using elements from each of the 3 kits. You can find these kits on the Ko-fi page and be able to buy them. And this is a really fun project, and the good thing is there's no binding involved since it's a folio. It's all folding and gluing together. And so I'm going to walk you through how I went ahead and created it. So the first thing you'll want to do is, after downloading your kits and deciding on which images you want to use, is to print those pages out. I printed them out using 65-pound white cardstock. I like to use the 65-pound white cardstock because it's a little sturdy. And if you're using like a black or a darker cardstock, you don't see it through. Whereas I do have some pages here that were printed out on regular copy paper or printer paper. And you do run the risk of being able to see that darker color through it. So I just like the thicker cardstock for that. So I have my pages printed out. I'm going to decide which images I want to use, and I'll cut them down to the sizes I need. For this particular folio, you are going to need one 8.5 by 11 piece of black cardstock. I'm using, this is going to serve as the base cover. So I'm using 110-pound cardstock, and I have it scored from each side at 2.5 inches, and then again at 3. Then I flipped it over, did it again at 2.5 and at 3. And we'll burnish those edges when we need to. You're then going to cut out 2 pieces of black cardstock, and this is 65 pounds, so it's lighter, and this is going to be on the inside of the journal, the folio. And the size for these is 8.25 inches by 10.25 inches. And then each of them, both pieces, are scored at 2.5 inches, 2.75 inches, and 7.75 inches. Don't worry about the dimensions and writing them down. I will include them in the description of the folio so that you can get them from there. And then the last piece that you're going to need is a piece of black 65-pound cardstock that is cut to 8.25 by 10 inches. And it's scored at 2.5 inches and again at 7.5 inches. Okay, so what I'm doing is going through each of these pieces of the base folio, and I am scoring, I've already scored them, so I am taking my bone folder and burnishing them along the edges to get those folds in there. You want to make sure it's a nice crisp folds. And then for one like this where you have the lines so close to each other, you want to be careful. And so I'll fold down on the furthest one and go ahead and burnish that. Then I will carefully bring that other piece up and fold it. Let's see if I can show you this. Fold it along that other line, just like that. And we'll get the bone folder to press that down so you get a nice crisp line and fold on that. And you'll see why there's that that really close those close lines in just a minute. And now we'll do the same for this, which is going to be the main piece of the folio, the cover. And for this, since it's a thicker cardstock, 110 pound, you'll definitely want to go over it a few times just to make sure that you get a nice Nice fold there. Then we'll do the same with this next one. Start to fold it, get it along there, and then fold it down and go over that a couple of times. And I will repeat that on the other side. And since this is a thicker cardstock, it is a little bit harder to fold. You know, it is heavier, but not impossible by any means. And you just need to go a little bit more slowly with it to make sure you don't crease it somewhere where you don't want it creased. There we go. So now all of these pieces have been scored and folded, and we're going to get ready to start assembling the folio. And it's going to be pretty simple. What we're going to do is start with the kind of the flat piece, which folds flat, no extra scores in it. And we're going to take one of the two pieces that have been scored and folded at the other sides, and we're simply going to connect that with double-sided tape and craft glue. You can use both, you can do either or, but just to give you a sense, it's going to go like that on one side, and then we'll do it the same way on that other side. So that is how we will get started. And take my tape runner, and you could, if you wanted to make a pocket out of this particular, you could make that into a pocket. I'm not going to, but that's something you could do. And if you were going to make it a pocket, you would just want to make sure that you're putting just adhesive along this bottom side and each side and not across the top. But since I don't care about that, I'm going to go ahead and just put it all the way across. So, and I am going to use both the double-sided tape and some glue. I like to do that just to make sure that it's sturdy and to make sure it's going to stick. And just as an extra insurance policy to know that that is definitely stuck. You also just want to be sure and be careful that you're going to connect it to the right side. You don't want it on the side that has that 1/4 inch fold there. You want to do it on the full side. And in order to connect these up, I just line them up. And the other thing is, what's nice about the glue is it gives you just a little bit of maneuvering because it doesn't set as quickly as the double-sided tape does. But once that is lined up, just like so, go ahead and get that one pressed down. And now we'll do the other side. Again, making sure that you're not grabbing that side with the 1/4 inch to connect it. We'll take our double-sided tape. That one just ran out. Grab another one. I keep them handy. I keep multiples of these double-sided tape rollers on hand. It's actually kind of funny. One of my sisters and my niece go around to this is a particular one is from the dollar store. They're cheap, but they work really well. And so they go around and collect those for me. And when they come to visit, they'll bring them down. So I'm always getting little crafting gifts from each of them. And I appreciate that. And I know they appreciate the crafts that I make for them. So it works out for all of us. So now that you have that, we'll go ahead and line that up like we did on the other side. And when you're happy, you can bring that up and just press those together. So this is what forms the inside part of the folio. And that is going to go inside of this other heavier heavier piece. And how that's going to work is you're going to have that folded. And this middle piece is going to line up right onto that middle piece. So what you'll do is, since we're not going to put any, obviously we won't be putting any of the designs on the back of it, we can just go ahead and run our tape and our glue. And then when you go to put it down, you're just going to fit it right into that center piece, which that does line up exactly. And then we'll press it down. So for this, we'll run several pieces of the double-sided tape going down. And if you're using just glue, you can put the glue wherever you want. If you're using something like glue dots, use whatever adhesive you like the most. I happen to really like these double-sided tape rollers. They work really well for me. And sometimes, like what I just did, you might get it a little too far over where you don't want it. And if that's the case, just take your finger and you can kind of just rub down on that and it picks it right up and off. So no big deal there. I am also going to run, as I said, just a little bit of glue. Maybe we'll go on the in-between parts where there isn't tape and have that adhere there. And of course, the good thing about glue is if you get it, you get it in a spot where you don't want it, you can just take your finger and wipe it off. So now we know that that's the side that's going to fit right down in there. What you might want to do just to make sure that you're getting it to help with lining up is just to kind of lift out those sides up a bit. But you can really do this by eyeballing it. And probably that's your best view, is to turn turn it the long way, face on going towards you, and that looks good. And over here, and again, if you happen to press it down and you realize, oh, it's not perfect, it's not where I wanted, and it's too late, don't worry. All that really matters is that it looks good. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but I like the way that is. So now I'm just going to press that down. And so what we're going to have is the inside with some flaps. You then have these sides with some flaps, and you can put those over on top of each other, and then it closes like that. I will end up having probably something like some lace coming around that you can then tie it closed. There are some other things that you can do. For example, if you wanted to have cut a piece that would have come off of the top here, and you could have had a little flap and then had another piece hanging down, you can certainly do that. Really up to you and what your preference might be. But I think that looks good. So now we can go ahead and start thinking about decorating it. So there are these belly bands that come in the kit, and they are the perfect size to fit these panels in the front. So I'm going to choose two of the images. They're all so beautiful, but there are two that just really speak to me. This one and this one. So I'm going to cut those out, and then I'm going to adhere them onto those panels to make the front cover of our folio. On the inside cover, I may end up using the other two because they're the perfect size. They'll fit right in there. And that will be the start of our decorating of our folio. So for cutting these out, you could certainly use scissors, and fussy cutting's an option. It works, but I actually find that my guillotine cutter is a better option for these because it just makes it easier. I know I'm going to get nice, clean, crisp, straight lines that my hand is okay, but it's certainly not perfect. And so I just like the cleanliness of the guillotine cutter the best. So I'm gonna go through and cut each of those to get rid of the white parts and have those be ready to go into the folio. So I got those images into place on the front outside and inside flaps, and those look really pretty there. They fit perfectly. I'm really happy with those. So now I'm going to go through the kit, select which images I want to put in and where I want to place them. I'm not going to show you all of those steps because this is a very personal process. You may decide to use different images. You may decide to use a different kit or a different product, and that's totally your call. But I'm going to go through and decide on my images. And for some of these larger ones, I'll use my guillotine cutter to cut that in half. But then for the image, I think what I'll do is I like a decal edge look. I just think it's vintage, it's fun. And so I'll go ahead and use this die, which is basically like a full page size. And once I have that cut, I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine, and that's how I'll get those images ready. I'll be back in a minute with a couple of these. Okay, so I have these two images die cut out. I love the look and the effect of that deckled die on there. As you can see, there's a little bit of white from that white border that was up at the top. The die would have been too long had I not included part of the border in it. But I'm going to show you, one, you can leave it like that. Two, you could take like a tan or a very like light cream colored marker and color it. Or three, what I like to do is take some distress ink. In this case, it's the tea dye. The tea dye really gives it that older paper look, and you can just run it and cover up the white with the tea dye. Because one, it does give it like that vintage look of the paper aging. And two, it covers up that little bit of white if you don't want to see that. I typically always, and if you go over like that, that's fine, because these aging stains, these water stains that might happen on something like this, they're not just, all in just one little particular place. They happen over the course of years, and they appear where they do. So, and when it dries, it's going to be a little bit less intense anyways. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this around and cover up that white and get ready to go ahead and decide where in the journal, or I keep calling it a journal because I work on journals. This is a folio, not a journal, although there is an idea I've been toying with as to how to add like a journal aspect to the folio. I'm going to consider to think about it, and if I decide I want to implement it into this project, I will go over it with you in a little bit later in the video. But it's as simple as that. I think it looks great. I'm going to do this other photo and then get them into the folio. Okay, so I have most of the work done on the folio. As you can see, I've cut out my images. I've put the images in. I've done just some scraps of paper sometimes with a little fussy cut piece. I love these particular images. They're just gorgeous. I mean, they're just so vintage and so realistic. Beautiful, beautiful pieces of artwork here. So I have those incorporated. And I had mentioned to you, maybe there's a journal aspect that I could add. And I think I'm going to do it. And so what I did is I cut out one of the pocket pieces, and all you do is you fussy cut it, and then score a line, to separate that piece, score a line to separate that piece. I'm going to put some double-sided foam tape just to give it a little bit of space to be able to fit into. And I'm going to put it here. Then I have these pages that I printed out. They're basically paper pages, like, you know, for part of the journal kit, that I printed out on just regular copy paper. And I cut them to get the whites off of the, you know, the surrounding white pieces around the borders. I'm going to go ahead and create a little journal. And I'm going to take one piece and one piece back to back. Use some double-sided tape to tape them together. Then once I have all of these done, I'm going to fold them. And I will add a binding to the side. And then this, in and of itself, can either be used as a journal, or it could also be used as another piece of the folio to decorate. And it should fit right in there. And I think it's going to look really nice and be either a future add-on for an expansion, or you could use it for actually writing things down and keeping notes. Okay, so I have my pocket there. I think it looks great. The next thing is I have those sheets put double-sided back to back to create this little journal. Like I said, it's a part of the folio. It could also be used for taking other images and mounting them on that, for writing notes, for doing a lot of different things. So in order to bind this together, it's going to be really simple. I could just use a hole punch and have hole punched and then like use twine or something, but that would have added some bulk that I didn't want to add. So what I did is, an inch down, I used one of these sharp pointed pokey tools, like I call it, and I just poked a hole right through. I'm then going to, using my grid down here on my craft mat, go up about another inch. Doesn't have to be precise by any means, but about an inch, and poke this down through these papers. And this is a technique that I watched Lisa from the Gingerbread Prints, the owner of the business, do in creating a binding. And I thought it was brilliant, and it works really well. Then I'm going to go just about halfway between those 2 points, and using the pokey tool, poke through again. And once I have that, I could use lots of different things, any kind of string, but what I'm going to use, just to make it kind of clear and invisible, is I'm going to use this, it's a polyester, like, you know, wiry type of string. It's almost like fishing line, if you will. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to weave it through the holes just to bind these together, tie it on the outside, and with it being clear, you won't see it as much. And I'll show you how it looks when I'm done. Okay, so like I mentioned, with the nice thing about that clear acrylic string, if you will, or plastic, whatever it is that you don't really see it that much. And so all I did is I went a couple of times in and throughout the holes, and then on the inside just went ahead and tied it in a knot and clipped off the ends. And in order to just add a little bit more of a touch to it, I'm just going to take some of that tea stain and go along the spine, just to help cover up where I poked those holes, so it will cover, you know, give that a little bit of color. And anywhere you want, you can just run that along. I'd already run it along the pages before I composed this this little journal, but you can always add more. And so that's done, and you can go ahead and just slide that into the pocket, and that will press down, no problem. That will close, that will close, everything will close. Last thing we have to do in regards to the design of this folio is to do the back. And for the back, I have the idea of like a collage type of look, taking some smaller images from the kit and kind of just making a collage out of the back of it. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that on top of the other half of the paper that I had used on that inside where I made the pocket. I'm going to put that on the outside back, then do those collaged images on top of it, and I'll show you what the final back cover looks like. Before putting down my back paper, I wanted to make sure that I want some lace to go around and be able to tie shut at the front of this. So I want my paper to go over that so that you just see the lace coming up on the sides and then tying in the front. So I cut a piece from some lace I had ordered from Amazon. Just wanted to make sure it was going to fit, and it does. It was long enough. So now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive down and put the lace over it. Then I'll cut my back cover piece of paper and adhere that over. Here's what I ended up doing on the back. I had this piece of copper paper from that I had saved. It was the inside of a frame that I'd used on another project, and I knew I'd want to use it at some point, and I thought it actually would look really nice to put this floral image on top of it, kind of center it on the back and have that be the back cover. So that's what I went with rather than doing a collage type of look, which would have covered up a lot of this beautiful paper. There is one last minute thing I also decided to do. There are these really cool cards that are a part of the kit, and I just didn't have enough space to try to incorporate them. So I cut them out and could easily get rid of the white, could easily run some ink along the sides. Can do that if I'd like to. But I used a pocket here and a pocket here that was simply just cut out and then foam tape on the side and on each side and on the bottom to create that pocket, and put the cards in so that these cards are now a part of the folio as well. The images are too nice not to use. And it's just another added interactive element. So with that said, this folio is now completed. I don't think there's anything else I'd like to do. I'll be able to tie it closed. We have these front panels, back and front. This beautiful image and that beautiful image. I just love those pictures. Nice, this is vintage fashion, so examples of vintage fashion. The same with this. They're smaller, but I like the use of the smaller cutouts against the longer paper and just having a little bit of blank space that could always go back and use later. Have these two pieces of art with the pockets and the cards as well. Flower panels on each side there. You have your big pocket, you have your background, and this really cool little journal that you can use. I could have taken these cards and put them on there. That's an option. But I also like the idea of being able to use that for writing something. So this would make a really nice gift for someone who likes the vintage motif and style. I certainly do. And it would just be a nice keepsake. So with that said, thanks for I'll tie that later. Thanks for crafting along with me today. I really appreciate it. Please go to the links that I'll have in the description to visit the various sites for the Gingerbread Prints. Lisa has some amazing artwork out there, and I encourage you to go check it out. Talk to you again soon. Take care.